Okay, very good. I was fighting with the microphone. Thanks very much, Nick. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody, to the Board of Education regular public meeting. Today is November. It's not November at all. It's I know, it's February 6th. Well, November 6th is my birthday, but February 6th. So bear with me a moment for the housekeeping, the open public meeting statement. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the time, date thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough, the Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the TAP. Peter, would you mind taking attendance?
Sure. Ms. Ciccarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Here.
Ms. Kenny. Ms. Ross.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Dr. Zhang.
Here.
And Ms. Weber.
Here.
8 present and accounted for.
Excellent, thank you. If you're able, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over by Dr. LaSousa. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. We had an action-packed agenda at the last meeting, and I did not make any comments, but I just wanted to, typically annually, the board members have to sign a code of ethics, and for as long as I've been on the board, we've reviewed them in some part, but I generally just like to review one of them, which all the board members have signed already. But if I could just remind folks that item D under the code of ethics for board members says, I will carry out my responsibilities not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members, see that they are run well. So sometimes folks think that, our authority maybe is a little bit overreaching or underreaching, but the goal is to let the educators, the professional educators in the room, run the district, and our job is financial oversight, policy setting, ensure that things are going well, and to question, some of the decisions. So I just wanted to remind folks that the board's job is not to run the school, thank goodness. The board's job is to ensure that the schools are run well. So sometimes there's, folks think that the scope of authority is a bit beyond what it actually is. And we're happy to do it. I just like to read that every year. And we signed our code of ethics last meeting, but it was just action-packed, and I didn't want to jam up the agenda any more than it already was. Great. So without further ado, I'm going to send it over to Dr. LaSousa for the superintendent's report.
All right, item number one for me is just to make note that the March 20th board meeting will take place at Chatham Middle School. The reason for that is that we will be just shy of the spring production here at the high school, so the stage will be occupied and students will be rehearsing. And then the second item under my agenda is just a quick update on educator shortages. This is getting a lot of attention statewide, and I thought it would be helpful just to give an overview of how it's impacting the school district of the Chatham. So if you all could head down into the seats, I will move myself along here. Okay, so I've been meaning or wanting at least to talk about this for some time because we have been referencing the shortage of teaching staff members and other members in the district for a while. I think Ms. Weber has probably been talking about this for 5, 6, 7 years or something. And we're about to enter our hiring season. That typically for us is in March, April, and May when we're staffing up for the next school year. And because this is getting a lot of attention across the state, even across the country, I figured I'd just kind of put some numbers and some detail to what we're experiencing in the district. So first off, just a couple of different sources about nationally what's happening in the education profession. And what is essentially happening is that the number of kids graduating from colleges and universities with a degree in education, a teaching certificate, is dramatically declining. And this has been happening, or was happening, prior to the pandemic. You can see these numbers here between 2010 and 2018. But we've got fewer young kids entering the profession. Other sources put the number at 25%, 22%. That previous slide was 35%. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, you can see the decline in the number of folks graduating with a bachelor's degree in education dropped in the last 50 years pretty substantially. And you can even see in the last 20 years, roughly, it has continued to decline. And that's kind of what it looks like snapshot-wise from a national perspective over the past number of decades. Then, of course, during the pandemic, education reflected what was happening society-wide, which was the Great Resignation, and a whole lot of educators left the profession in the few years during the pandemic. Which kind of brought us to the beginning of this school year, and according to multiple sources, many school districts across the country were understaffed when this year began. That included the school district of the Chathams. Everyone here has heard us talk about the lack of paraprofessional staff, lack of substitute staff, in some cases lack of teaching staff. And not just teaching staff, but as you can see from this slide, more than half of districts reported that were understaffed, reported being understaffed in places like transportation and mental health clinicians. And we've been hiring those at a steady clip over the past year or two. It probably wouldn't, and one sort of interesting note here is that as many districts that experienced vacancies in teaching positions, there are even more districts that experienced employing teachers who were under-certified or under-credentialed for the position that they were holding, meaning that they might not hold the certificate, the proper certificate, but they were placed in a position on an emergency basis because there were no other candidates for the jobs. Might not surprise you to know that New Jersey's faring even worse than the national norm. So this is a statistic from the DOE. 2009-10, there were about 6,300, 6,400 individuals who completed teacher preparation programs in the state. And as of 2020-21, there were just under 3,000, so a decline of more than 50%. That's kind of what it looks like on a graph. And there are reasons why New Jersey may be faring worse. At least some of the folks who run in my circles cite some of these. I'm going to talk about a couple of them. But basically, between 2010 and 2020, there have been a host of measures taken up primarily by the legislature that we believe have impacted the pipeline of teaching staff and folks in our field. So, of course, there was the financial crisis, 2008, 2009. This led to reductions in state funding for school districts, which in turn led to staffing cuts. There, back in 2011, were pension reforms that, of course, were necessary and were designed to ensure the health of the pension long term, but that nonetheless created a different sort of set of emoluments for people entering the field. A lot of folks don't know about this, but in our world, this has had a major impact, which was the residency requirement that was enacted in the state. To work in public schools now, you have to reside in New Jersey, and so that took off the table folks who live in neighboring states. And while a district like Chatham only has a handful of folks who live in Pennsylvania or New York and work here, because all of the districts and all of the communities that border places like Delaware or New York or Pennsylvania now have to draw from New Jersey, there are fewer candidates for all of us. Achieve NJ is was a set of accountability changes that the DOE implemented and the state board implemented. There's a whole jargon alphabet about how we have to evaluate staff and track progress, things like SGO, MSGP. Most of you have not heard of a lot of this stuff. But there's more and more research that these measures, which were designed to ensure greater accountability for teacher effectiveness, have backfired, at least in terms of the impact it's had on the folks who want to enter the profession. The Praxis Core was also introduced a few years ago as a requirement. So anyone who gets a teaching certificate in New Jersey now must pass the Praxis Core. There was a time long ago when you had to pass like a subject matter test. So if you were teaching French, you would have to pass the Praxis in French. Now there's a Praxis Core, which is, we know from colleges and universities and those folks who prepare teachers, is an impediment for a lot of folks to gaining a certificate. So I just, Googled a few sample questions from the Praxis Core, and you can see why perhaps not every teaching candidate would need to know how to do some of these or answer some of these questions. This one I just pulled off of the Khan Academy, just put in Khan Academy Praxis Core. So this is another example of something that is affecting the pipeline. Two other changes implemented fairly recently in the past 6-7 years. One was to change the minimum GPA requirement. So if you're in college and you want to enter a teacher preparation program, it used to be that you had to have a GPA of at least 2.75. Now it's 3.0. That sounds good. Sounds like we're increasing the quality of teachers. But in fact, it winds up that now there are fewer folks who might be eligible. And an example I would like to give, or I have given to some of our legislators, is if I was a student at Princeton University and I was a physics major and I had a 2.5 GPA, but I decided, I think I want to go into teaching. Physics was a little bit tough, but I can handle the mathematics. I want to be a math teacher. I wouldn't be permitted to go into a teacher preparation program because my GPA wouldn't be good enough. Second change was that it used to be that you had to student teach one semester. Most of us in this room who are educators did one semester of student teaching. That has changed to 2. That also sounds good. Better prepare folks, give them a more diverse background before they enter the field. But the reality is when you student teach, you can't work because you're student teaching full time. So student teaching typically is like an extra semester of college that you're paying for. And while some folks can afford to take a year off and not work, there are others who can't do that. And that has caused an obstacle for some folks who want to enter the field. So I've adopted this from New Jersey policy perspective, but if you look at kind of the line that's trending downward and you slide in all of these different measures that have taken effect in New Jersey, you can see that we're not trending in a positive direction, at least if we want folks who can staff our classrooms. So now let's look at Chatham. So that's all the abstract. Okay, nationally there are fewer teachers. New Jersey there are fewer teachers. What does it really look like in Chatham? Or actually, this is still state of New Jersey. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. But if you look at the certificates issued in New Jersey, this is the change over the past almost 10 years. And some of these areas, you can tell, there still are a fair number of certificate completers. But you take something like chemistry, where there are 40 people a year obtaining a chemistry certificate. And to put that in perspective, we have 4 full-time chemistry teachers. All they teach is chemistry at Chatham High School. 4. If you think about how many chemistry teachers are needed in the state of New Jersey, it's a lot more than 40 per year. And you can see, right down the line, every one of these areas has decreased except chemistry. So now we'll get to Chatham. Sorry for jumping ahead there. So these are numbers that Ms. Grant pulled right out of our application system called AppleTrack or Frontline. We posted for a mathematics teacher in 2013. We had 248 applicants, posted for a mathematics teacher at CHS in 2022, 21. Biology 10 years ago, 56 applicants. Biology last spring, 7. Social studies teacher, 562, 9 years ago, 139 this past year. Spanish teacher, 105. Leave replacement teacher, that's what LRT stands for. We had 3 applicants 2 years ago. Physics, 24 down to 3. Chemistry, 5312. Math, 11 applicants this past spring, 287 10 years before. Special education teacher, about 90% fewer applicants in 10 years at the elementary level. Classroom teacher, K-3 classroom teacher. We have some K-3 teachers in the audience tonight. More special education at the K-3 level. English teacher. So, what is this going to mean? Because it's getting worse, not better, because there are fewer kids that are graduating from colleges and universities with teaching certificates. This problem is worsening every year that goes by. As an aside, one thing that was different for us this school year that really we can't ever recall being the case before was that normally when we hire our new crop of staff in the summer, we bring them in for orientation, there's a mix of folks. Some of them have had a few years of experience, some have had no experience straight out of colleges and universities. This year, essentially every person we hired was taken from another school district because we didn't have any applicants, or at least very few, that were straight out of school. So the first thing that we're doing in terms of the impact is that we're trying to do much more outreach and marketing. Ms. Grant is leading that charge. She's working with a group called CJ Pride. CJ just stands for Central Jersey, and it was originally begun in Central Jersey as try to solve some of these problems, but it's HR folks who are looking to do more to attract folks into the districts that participate. We're trying to retain better, and we're trying to lobby to change some of the items that I showed on the screen before because we think that they're causing a drain on the pipeline. It's also important to understand as we move forward, and I'm sure we're going to probably reference this slide and the next one 5 years down the road. It's likely that we're going to reach a point where some of our classes can't be taught by a person in Chatham. We're going to have to do online versions of classes. 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference in Atlantic City, went to listen to another school district. They were describing how they couldn't staff world language, so now world language is taught online, and they've got basically someone in the class just overseeing the students as they work online because they can't find certified teachers for world language. That's going to be coming, I think, to every school district in New Jersey relatively soon. It is likely we're not going to be able to continue to staff every single position with someone who's certified in that subject area, at least not all the time, especially in leave replacement situations. It's likely class sizes are going to grow because we don't have enough staff to get to the class size ratio that we might want, student-teacher-wise, that is. I think it's likely we're going to end up narrowing some course offerings. So that one slide, 10 slides back about the certifications issued in the state of New Jersey, there were no consumer science certificates issued in the past 2 years, 0. So there aren't folks out there who are certified to teach family and consumer science because there are no certificates being issued. We might have more turnover than usual. We may have to pay more to get teachers to come here, which, because we have a locked 2% cap on our budget, that means that we need to reduce in other areas to attract the folks that we want in some of the places where we can't staff. And putting all of that together, it just gives you a sense of, as we enter hiring season now, these are some of the things that we're kind of grappling with as we look forward. And we're all going to have to grapple with it over the next 3, 5, 10 years because at least at the current pace and with what's happening at colleges and universities, this isn't a problem that's improving in the very near term. So that's it. Happy for you guys to come back up on stage, take any questions.
Thanks, Mike, for the cheery presentation. I have been talking about this for 5 years, and there's so many, I overachieve in worrying, and this is one thing that's been worrying me for quite some time. Where my son lives in Santa Monica, many of his friends are teachers, and they have teachers that teach, like you'll have one teacher that teaches 3rd and 4th grade, another teacher that teaches 5th and 6th grade combined. They just don't have enough staff, so she has 40 kids in her class. Half of them are one grade, half of them are other. And I asked her, how do you differentiate? She goes, you know what, I really don't do it as much as I should because I just don't have the bandwidth. So, in addition to online, we might have to start merging classes, and it's Chatham's fortunate that we're still able to get some applicants. There's many neighboring districts that don't even get any applicants at all. We're able to reach out to other schools and draw in some teachers from other districts, but at some point that's going to dry up. I mean, Beth lives it every day, so keep doing the outreach. But Mike, my question to you is: has there been any movement in the legislature on some of those things, like the residency, like the GPA? I know you have a cohort and a group that have been pounding them, but are they listening? Do they get it?
I didn't put on the list the what is it, NJTPA? What is the proper term, Beth? EdTPA, thank you, EdTPA. Finally, after like 6 years of lobbying, the governor just signed a law to undo EdTPA. That was the student teaching requirement that you had to film yourself. You have to ship off the video to Pearson. Right. It was very arduous. It also was very expensive, and it was an impediment. So there was success there. There's ongoing talk about the residency requirement being repealed, although that hasn't happened yet. I don't know how much of the other stuff is getting a lot of traction. The NJASA just released a report with 29 recommendations, I think, beyond even these. Things like inside the certification, some of those requirements are too rigid, and that's one of the reasons why folks aren't obtaining certificates in some areas. But there's not enough movement yet, in my humble opinion, based on what we're facing.
I mean, it's got to be in crisis mode in some, districts that just have that have vacancies, complete vacancies for the whole year. The kids are sitting in study hall instead of chemistry. And again, if you're graduating 40 chemistry teacher, there's 563 school districts. How many high schools? 500 of them are high schools?
300 plus high schools.
Right, that's just not going to cut it. And we're taking up 4 of them. We're taking up 10% of those of the chemistry teachers. So, more to follow. Thank you for the information. This way we can all share the worry and not sleep tonight. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Or Michelle, did you want to touch on this since you live it?
No, the only thing, I have 2 comments/questions is, and Beth, I don't know who to ask, is the state giving how are they helping us, the Department of Education, in terms of getting people who are qualified, certified? If you're transferring your license from another state, I mean, it's not that different in New York and Pennsylvania. Teachers, they should be able to transfer their elementary school license, their world language, whatever it is that they are certified in, to transfer into New Jersey, even on a temporary basis, to be able to begin working. So, if it seems like someone who moves here, we could have teachers, but they can't get certified, so we can't. And I feel like there's this cog in the wheel. So I'm assuming nothing's getting better there, or?
That are present right now in terms of the requirements. They exist. The good news is we are all acutely aware now, I think more than ever before, of some of the changes that need to be made. In Mike's presentation, he mentioned our affiliation with CJ Pride. This organization, they have a lot of ability to keep the conversation going and relevant and speak with people who, want to hear the collective sort of, opinion of this group. So we're hopeful, and we're also looking at ways to sort of incentivize people into the profession, but no quick fix.
And I think the other is more of a comment. I think the cost of living in New Jersey is just going up. And whether people are in programs or whether people are making choices upon entering their university level, they know the teachers are not They're not in it for the money, and you almost can't afford to be a teacher in the state of New Jersey. So there needs to be some type of legislation, some type of incentive to help teachers be able to live here and work here, whether it's a tax break, whether there is something, it's not anything that we here in Chatham have control of. This has to be, whether it's at a state level or even a national level, because people are leaving because they can't afford to be teachers.
Beth or Mike, is there any talk at the legislative level to make it easier for the alternate route program? I know they made it harder fairly recently. Are they going to reel back any of that? Because there's a lot of people in the profession that, have made their money and they're now looking to give back and can teach, chemistry teachers. I mean, we are surrounded by pharmaceutical companies. There's got to be a chemistry teacher in there somewhere.
Not that I've heard.
Not that you've heard. They actually made it harder in recent years, which is a shame.
Come to Chatham High School, go to Montclair High School, do they go out and try to actively, not recruit, but to sort of just get kids thinking about being teachers?
The state doesn't, but there are districts that are building their own kind of grow your own teacher candidate pool
I did see that in Newark when we were down at the
convention.
convention, and yeah, they had quite the program, but they were in really bad shape, it sounded, even worse shape than us, so they had to figure something out. But I was wondering if the state does any of this at all in any way, shape, or form, try to get people motivated to want to be a teacher. The answer is no.
I'm sure they do. Nothing off the top of my head is leaping out as big programs that they run to try to attract more folks to the field.
They're no help.
Okay, well, teachers out there, try and sell it to your students a little bit. We have an 11th grader right here. Make sure you tell all your friends to become teachers. They'll love it.
That's true.
You'll get any job you want. People will throw rose petals at your feet. Okay, great, excellent. Any other comments on that cheery topic? Nope. Okay, great. Mike, did you have anything else?
That's it for me for now.
Okay, great. Over to you, Peter. Hopefully you're going to lift our spirits.
I can certainly lift the spirits. On the construction update, the architect has filed the 14 applications for the potential ROD grant projects. They were all submitted to the DOE on Monday, January 30th, which is the first day that applications were accepted. So now it's a sit-and-wait game to see when, if and when any of them will be approved. On the other note, first student will be utilizing Cougar Field for the month of February for the temporary bus parking as they search for a new home since their term of use at the former Charlie Brown's site came to an end.
I thought they had a spot in Berkeley Heights.
They do, but they can't fit all their buses in Berkeley Heights as they work through the Berkeley Heights red tape. So.
Okay.
And just as the next item, which is on the agenda, just lists the evacuation drills, the bus evacuation drills that were held in the fall semester. As a point of information, unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
I do not have any questions. Any questions for Peter? Okay, so they'll be there the buses will be at Cougar for February? Okay, great, thank you. We're going to move over to committee reports. Ms. Chigarelli for personnel. Do we meet?
We haven't met since our last meeting, right?
No.
No.
Excellent.
We're meeting Wednesday.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Clark, curriculum?
It's actually Ms. Ross.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you hear me? Curriculum has not met either. We will have our next meeting Wednesday.
Wednesday, perfect.
Yep.
Peter, would you mind switching that to?
I will. I thought it was done. I think it was on a different copy of an agenda.
Perfect,
So it'll
okay.
be taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you. Finance and facilities, Mr. Smith.
Yes, Finance and Facilities, we met on January the 18th. We're meeting again on the 15th. We got a brief overview of the reconfiguration update. Mike, Dr. LaSousa, and teams in the individual schools are still working through staffing and actual logistics on how that would look. We also discussed timing and potential, when to potentially make that change. And then, Dr. LaSousa briefly discussed our 2% cap and the budget as we work through this whole thing. We've got a real bad math problem. We've got ESSER funding going away. We've got inflation going up. We've got insurance going up high single digits. And we're capped at 2% on how much we can raise. On the positive side, Mr. DeQuilla spoke about the ROD grants that are coming down the road. We hope we can get some of the capital funding on that. He submitted 14 individual projects that we could get funding on. And finally, we discussed a potential for an electric vehicle charging station that would be installed at CHS. And right now, given the budget constraints, we're going to kind of table that and maybe discuss it down the road as we get through budget. In terms of timing, March 20th, we'll have preliminary budget figures. So not next meeting, the following meeting.
Okay, right, not March 6th.
Oh, yeah, we canceled the 27th
We
meeting.
canceled the 27th, the next meeting is March 6th.
Yeah, so it's the next meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, the March 6th and then the 20th.
You were right the first time.
Yeah, I was right the first time. Yep.
But that is, I mean, it just doesn't work. The math doesn't work. We have a 2% cap and we have expenses exceeding 10%.
Inflation high single digits,
Something has to give.
insurance going up high single digits,
Right,
ESSER grants going away.
right. So I'm glad I'm not on finance, but I mean, something has to give. I don't know what the answer is, but
It's a very difficult math problem that we are up against.
that's not that cheery either.
I'm sorry?
That's not that cheery either,
No,
Bradley.
sorry.
This is a great meeting. I just don't want to fly by this. I just want folks to understand the conundrum that, and the only way to come up with that kind of capital is head count. In any business, your biggest expense is insurance and salaries.
That's right.
So we've got to figure out to do something. Unless you're.
And it's one of the few businesses, if you look at it purely as a business, it's one of the few businesses where we can't just raise prices to where they need to be.
Right.
Everyone sees the impact of inflation, and we're obviously very sensitive to that. But when you have inflation at high single digits, insurance going up high single digits, and the money coming in at 2%, there's not really.
Right. Yeah, some of the expenses are completely out of our control.
Right.
And over the last 5 years, we've already been managing to the decline of enrollment. We saw that with librarians, not replacing retired staff, consolidating supervisory positions, not replacing staff that retired at the central office. I mean,
That's correct.
you hit the low hanging fruit, and now you're into some real meaty cuts.
Right.
I know. Anything? I know, sorry.
Policy is going to be cheering.
Anything good for us?
Mike's going to cheer us up.
The policy committee met on the 18th as well. One cheerful event in
Take it.
policy was.
We're not proud, we'll take
We
it.
talked about where the high school was in their process of selecting a student representative for the Board of Education. Looks like that's been completed. So, other depressing topics, we discussed a reunification plan, which would mean there's an agreement that we would have with the County College of Morris. This is a reunification plan would be how to reunite families in the event that there's a unfortunate event here at the school where we have to lock down the streets and people don't know where their kids are. So that's kind of depressing. Also, we discussed some procedures and best practices of how we would or would not share video surveillance that we have in our buildings when there's a potential criminal incident that occurs. We discussed district clubs using Venmo. We have a draft of a procedure for that. And we approved a non-resident student attending the high school.
Okay, great. I mean, I know the reunification is not a cheery topic at all, but we've had 40 mass shootings in the United States. We've had more mass shootings than
Yep.
we've had days in the year, so.
I didn't even want to say the word.
I know. You know
Right.
what, though? But the reality is, if we don't, fail to plan to fail, we have to have these things in place so that they are ready to go and we're not scrambling, God forbid something happens. And it has to be far enough off-site if these roads are shut down like we see on the news. Hopefully it's like having an umbrella. It will never rain, but it's good to have these plans in place. Yeah.
Albeit, it's taken them a long time.
It has.
The county is finally kind of pitching in
Getting on board,
and
right?
getting on board.
Perfect. And working with our local, law enforcement too. It's, instead of each municipality trying to or district trying to create their own plan, we're working in conjunction with the local law enforcement, the county sheriffs, the emergency management. It's not each district trying to make up their own plan, which is nice. So thank you, Mike, for spearheading that and helping us out, bringing that to fruition, and Dr. LaSousa and Peter. Okay, great. Any other questions on any of those topics? Nope. Okay, great. Any items from liaison perspectives?
A formal report from CEF, but trivia night returns on Saturday, which is exciting, and I'll be playing, so watch for Revenge of the Nerds. Hopefully we win. It's one of their biggest fundraisers, so we're really excited to see that back. So, yep.
Night. And from the borough perspective, just an update on that. Every meeting I give an update on that. Our discussions with the borough council on the payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot, what they call the pilot program. I've exchanged probably 30 or so emails with Councilman Dempsey, who's typically here, and she's here tonight. And Councilman Dempsey assures us that we're going to meet soon. They're still crunching some numbers on their side, but that we will hopefully be able to sit down fairly soon and discuss sharing some of the payment in lieu of taxes money to offset some of the additional costs that might be derived from residents moving into the River Road development. So more to follow on that. Again, Councilwoman Dempsey's been a sport, dealing with my constant emails, requests for meetings, so hopefully that'll happen soon. Any questions? Nope. Any other liaisons? Nope. Excellent. Perfect. So I would like to make a motion then to move the minutes of the January 9th public and executive sessions.
Second.
Seconded by Michelle.
As a reminder, Ms. Ciccarelli and Mr. Del Sandro need to abstain.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? There you go.
Minutes pass 602.
Excellent. Great, thank you. So we have our first opportunity for public commentary. Hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, please limit your comments to a reasonable amount of time. Again, this is your time to make a comment. It's not a back and forth. If we can answer something at the end, we'll do it to the best of our ability, but generally this is your time to speak and we will not be interrupting. When you go to the mic, if you could introduce yourself and sign in, that would be swell. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lenore Paulin. I am a secretary at Milton Avenue School, and I am also a CEA representative. First of all, Milton would like to thank our very generous PTO and families for all they do for our staff and students, including the payment of all of our upcoming class trips, the staff treats that always seem to appear when we need that pick-me-up. Also, all items purchased from our teachers' Amazon wish lists, just to name a few. Also at Milton, community service is a very important part of our school year. Monthly community service projects are organized by our PTO and staff. The projects are a great way for our students, families, and staff to assist our community and those communities around us. Some of the projects to date are food collection for Chatham Food Bank, the Hat and Mitten Tree for families in need, Book Plus collection for the Library of the Chathams book sale, and Toys for Tots. Currently, the children are working on our annual Valentine's for Veterans. This is a very special project as we always receive sincere gratitude from our veteran community. Another important going on at Milton School is we have our middle school that comes over once a month. It is called a Bridge Program for Physical Education, and the middle school students come over to Milton and work with our preschoolers. We also have, in conjunction with Miss Grayson O'Reilly's students, a hands-on training in a school setting also in our preschool. It gives the students a hands-on as to what goes on in a classroom, copying, etc. They are very helpful to our preschool world. Although our sub-coverage is still an issue, I would like to thank Beth Grant and her secretaries for reaching out to our former students as subs. The month the students were home did alleviate some coverage issues, and we enjoyed having them at Milton Avenue. Lastly, we'd like to make a shout out to all of our districts behind the scenes staff, our custodians, maintainers, paras, and secretaries. Thank you for all you do. Our schools could not run without you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jessica Vega. I'm a first grade teacher at Milton Avenue School. Last week, Milton Avenue School participated in the Great Kindness Challenge. One of the ways that our school participated was by encouraging the students to donate spare change to Kind's Coin for Our Earth, an organization that raises money for helping to clean our oceans. I'm proud to share that our little kiddos raised $108.76. Way to go, Milton. Thank you to Erin McNanny, for our school counselor, for organizing. I'd also like to mention that our waste-free lunch is back in our Walk to School event. On February 2nd, our parent Green Team members presented the idea of recycling to our students during their lunch period. We're going to start small. The students will be encouraged to recycle their milk containers and plastic water bottles to start. This is the first year parents are joining us on the Green Team, and we're excited for the collaboration. As part of the meeting, we also decided to bring to the attention of our community and our families, as the temperatures to continue to lower, it may be more and more tempting to keep our cars idling while dropping off or picking up your children. So please be aware that idling is not allowed at Milton Avenue School. It's important to understand the turning off the car engines despite the convenience of keeping the car warm inside. Idling increases the amount of vehicle exhaust in the air, and we just want to make sure to keep our air pollution low, because that hurts the children the most. Let's do our part by making a safer and healthier environment for our learning community by turning off the engines to our cars when dropping off and picking up our children. We also want to say thank you to Erin Zotti, Milton's nurse, for helping out SBS for the last few weeks and ensuring the safety and health of our kids. We want to give a shout out to Washington Avenue School, and we're excited for the upcoming movie night they have sponsored by the CA Pride. And Milton is looking forward to submitting their own family-themed event for this year. Milton would like to extend congrats to Sally Simon-Fay. Last December, she was awarded and named by Mikey Sherrill's 2022 Heroes for her work as an educator and community service. We also wanted to congratulate Lafayette for a successful and sold-out musical night. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon Bauer. I'm a para at Milton Avenue School in a self-contained preschool class. I'm here tonight representing paras from Milton. First, I'd like to say that Milton has a great staff, and I'm really fortunate to be a part of their staff. And we're like a family. We have a great rapport with each other. So the reason I'm here tonight is I wanted to talk about how we're told that we're as paras, we're very valuable, and that we're the backbone of the school, and that we are, we're a very big part of everyday life at Milton Avenue. And I just want to say that from what Dr. LaSousa said earlier, he stated about teachers, a shortage of teachers, a shortage of paras, and that is so true. We're dealing with that every day at our school. Every day we have an email that's sent out that says the coverage. There's always people out, people being pulled from different classrooms, different paras being pulled from different classrooms. And it's very frustrating because we are giving our heart and soul every day. And we, honestly, a big part of it, I think, for the paras at least, is that we're not getting paid. We don't have a competitive salary. We have no benefits. And that's why I think we're losing some of the paras. I'm not saying all of them, but I feel like that's a lot of people I've spoken to that have left have gone to different districts for benefits, for more pay. And also, there's a question of training. I mean, our paras need training. We have had, Kristen Davenport did a training a month ago, or whenever it was, 2 months ago, and it was on a voluntary basis, and we had a pretty good percentage of the paras show up because that's how much we care about our students. We want to learn. We want to be able to know what's going on. And that's just part of it. But I think that paras, we're so important. We're so crucial to the school district. And we are not being treated that way. We are told that we are valued. We are told that we are, we could do it. I mean, I teach a para in a self-contained class. When my teacher is out, I take over the class. I'm not getting paid any more money. And we don't have the sub do that because she doesn't know the routine. She doesn't know, or he doesn't know. They don't know the routine. They don't know the children. And it's becomes very frustrating. So that's really all I wanted to say. And I did have a question. I did get a hold of an email that said that it was sent out in August that says permanent substitutes, full-time, benefits eligible. Now, how can you give substitutes benefits when you're not giving your own employees benefits? I don't see the logic there. I mean, that you're hiring somebody that has no experience, possibly, and coming in, they're getting paid for the day, and they're going to be there for, it's a 20 equal pay periods. But I don't know how you can do that. When we have given our time and we are valued employees, and you're not offering us benefits. So, and I just have one more thing to say. Last May, I know Karen Chase isn't with us anymore. She's at a different school district. But our lead teacher in our class was not there one day, and she was out with COVID. So myself and 3 other aides took over the class. So this is the email that she wrote. It's very short. She wrote, "Dear Shannon, Lisa, Archana, and Heather," and out of the 4 people that she addressed, 2 of them are no longer with us. They've gone to different districts or they've gone somewhere else. And Lisa, who was there, she was pulled from a kindergarten class to help out in our class. Karen wrote, "I am sorry that I did not get to personally thank you for allowing me to work alongside you last Friday. As I said to Laura earlier today, what you do is truly remarkable, and I have not stopped thinking about the impact you have in the lives of children with whom you work. It was such a beautiful thing to watch the power of dedication, patience, and empathy in action. Thank you again and again and again." And that's Laura Savori's class at Milton Avenue. So we were very appreciative that she realized that, but when she came into the classroom, she saw all the moving parts and she was floored by it. And she was an administrator, and she That's why I think the administrators need to come down and see what's really going on in the classrooms. And I just,
Thank you, Shannon.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could sign in, you probably did already.
I'm going to right now.
Okay, great. All right, well, we have another opportunity for public comments. I will close this one. Mr. Carr. First day at a board meeting? Tick-tock.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Carr, C-A-R-R, from 3 Crestwood Drive in Chatham Township. A couple of items, primarily Mr. Smith and Mr. DeKillo for the first one. Asked a couple of months ago about the ball field behind Chatham High School, whether there's been any initiative to level the outside of the infield there, the whole outfield area, which really doubles as a field hockey and soccer field also. That should have been done again 10, 12 years ago during some of those expansions, but it wasn't. And I was curious whether there's been any discussion about doing a fully loaded fix-up of that. Again, strictly natural turf, not artificial turf, but to get that done and get that done the right way. And the sub-question to that is, I understand you're looking at doing a second question or some kind of referendum going forward. If that's not an operating item budget, is it a capital item budget, or capital budget item, I should say? And then could that be piggybacked into the second question as a discrete, $1 million cost or $800,000, whatever the number happens to be, and incorporate that at least for public discussion? So that's item number one. Item number two, now maybe jumping into the fray a little bit, on the issue of 2%. Remember, there is no 2% cap absolute. There's 2% cap without asking permission from the taxpayers. If one wants to raise the budget by 30%, my understanding is you can do that. All you have to do is ask. So I think that should continue to be in the discussion. That's, again, part and parcel of this 2%, not 2%, but the second question type issue. So it's a little bit of a misnomer that we're capped out at 102% of last year's budget. I recognize all the costs, got no problem with that. But let's make sure that we do have revenue sources if the populace, who are the ones who are, again, funding the company, are willing to do that. Then into the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes discussion. Again, I've got no problem with the Board of Education asking for money. You ask and you get separate revenue streams with cell towers or vending machines or, again, municipal money. That's all fine. I think the real issue is hopefully take the high road and not ask the municipality for extra money, but rather ask the taxpayers directly for that money that you would be asking the municipality for. The municipality on their side, whether it's Chatham Borough or Chatham Township, should be keeping that money at the municipal level, because that, again, is money at the municipality that should stay at the municipality, irrespective of the fact they can legally send it right over. And there really, I don't think, should be a backdoor deal between the municipality and the Board of Education, albeit the use of funds is probably terrific. Procedurally, that should go into the taxpayer's pocket and then via a referendum back out of the taxpayer's pocket into the Board of Education budget. I think Mr. Heap has spoken to that a little bit, both here and at the municipality level. Again, no fault of you asking for it, but hopefully you'll take the high road and not ask for it, but rather ask for that same money via a second question. That way that goes directly to the taxpayers. Taxpayers make the decision as the rules are written. Thank you. There's something, one other thing, I'm sorry. One more thing for Dr. LaSousa. Just as a matter of interest on the remarks before. And again, it's probably not your world, but you guys talk to each other. Any sense of the bid ask, or so to speak, on the 10 years ago for the teachers versus this year at the parochial, private, charter school level? Do they have the same kind of delta, say 10 years ago, 5 years ago versus now? Or is there a little bit closer range between what it was and what it is? Do they still have the same shortages, or are people knocking down the doors to get into those schools? If you happen to know about that, if you can make some comment at some point, just for general information. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Carr. Any other comments? No? Great. So I'm going to close the public comment. Sorry, Bill, did you want to get up? No, you're just rubbing. Sorry. So we're going to close that, and there's another opportunity at the second public commentary, so if I can just address, thank you for the teachers for coming out. I know you've had a terribly long day. And Shannon, we have also heard that a lot of paras have left because of benefits, and we have been talking about that. And piggybacks a little bit into what Mr. Carr was saying. Probably at the last 15 meetings, we've been talking about second questions as a possibility to fill the gap between, the 2% that we're given and the expenses that we want to incur, including benefits for paras, more competitive teacher salaries. So we have talked about second questions. Mr. Carr, you can go back and watch the last 15 meetings, but it's probably been mentioned every single one of them about going out for a second question. It just has to be, an effective second question, and it has to be, very clear and specific, and it has to be pointed, this amount of dollars is set specifically to give paras benefits. This amount is just to increase, salaries. If we can afford 2%, but the teacher's negotiation contracts wants 3.5, the money has to come from somewhere. So Mr. Smith and his team on finance are working on that, but more on that. So I just want to go in order. Again, thank you, teachers, for coming out. You have a grind. I wouldn't last 5 minutes in your shoes, for sure. So you're certainly appreciated. You heard some of the challenges we have with the budget. It's not that you're not appreciated. It's just that, it's math. It's bad math, and I hear you. It's not falling on 10 ears. We're just trying to figure out how do we do that. One way we can do it is cut 25% of the teachers at the high school, and that would free up benefits for paras. Is that the best choice? I don't know, but it's one choice. The only way to free up that kind of capital in any business, and make no mistake, this is a business, in any business is headcount and healthcare benefits. There's no other way to free up that kind of capital. It's not going to happen by, onesie-twosie little cuts, and we've done all those before. So Mr. Smith and the finance team and Peter and Mike, they have, a huge, huge rock to push up this hill and come back with some creative mathematics. Mr. Carr, I'm going to leave the ball field stuff to Mr. DeQuilla. Second question, operating budget. I have no interest in spending a single dime on the baseball field. This is just me personally until we figure out, spending more money for personnel or full-day kindergarten or paras. So it's just not on the top of my list, the baseball field. The 2% cap without going out to the taxpayers. Yep, I just talked about that. We've talked about that at the last dozen or so meetings. The pilot program, of course we're going to ask. We've been talking about it. We've been working with the council. And I went to every single solitary town hall meeting, and the borough did a great job. They met with residents on a dozen occasions at different venues, at different times, with different professionals at the dais, including themselves. And at every single meeting, when residents that you spoke about, Mr. Carr, residents got up and said, how is 259 units going to impact the school system? They said, don't worry, it's baked into the pilot program. And it wasn't one, it was dozens of residents that asked, how is 259 units, family units, 3-bedroom units, going to impact the school system? And every single time, the answer from the council, multiple council members, was, we're going to ensure that there's not a negative impact on the school district. So this is coming from the residents. The residents are saying, you need to share some of the money so that it doesn't offset the cost. Because if we get costs that exceed $1 million, again, it's just going to come right out of headcount. There's just no other way to come up with that kind of capital. So I would argue that we did ask the residents. The residents spoke. They spoke at the municipality level in that instance. Currently, the borough is the only municipality that's going out for a payment in lieu of taxes. The township is handling their affordable housing slightly differently. And if down the road, a piece of property like Noe Pond becomes available and that's a pilot program, we're going to ask again. So we will absolutely ask. Mr. Smith, I'm going to send it over to you if you had any comments about any of the budget stuff or baseball field leveling stuff.
Mr. DeQuilla, I think you can speak to that on the ROD grant. That's one of the items, right?
The baseball field is not one of the ROD grants. That is not one of the high criteria of the state. The ROD grants have been predominantly security, building envelopes. HVAC is the best opportunity to get money. We have received a few quotes on the field. It is something the Finance Committee has to judge. When you have a limited amount of money you can spend, which the top priorities are. And as we're going through the budget, money being spent on capital projects as well as balancing the budget will all be weighed and to put out the best product for the district.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Bradley, you good?
Yep.
Anybody on this side of the table? Nothing? Good, perfect. Okay, well, we have another opportunity, so if any of that's spurred on. And if any of the teachers want to leave, please, we won't hold it against you. You've had a long 14-hour day just sneak out and nobody will even notice. But thank you for coming. Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to the regular agenda. And again, these are posted on Friday, by Friday, probably midday or late afternoon or early afternoon. So if it appears that we go through them quickly, it's just that we've had the whole weekend to read them. So without further ado, I'm going to move it over to Ms. Ciccarelli for personnel.
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 to 23 on the regular agenda, and then A1, 25, 26, and 27 on the addendum.
Second?
Wow, go ahead, Mike. Nick, can you turn on?
How are we, Nick? Just a note of two retirees, or two retirements. One is Diane Schulman over at Lafayette Avenue School, who did work at Milton Avenue School a bunch of years ago. So we wish her well. And Pete Trebor, one of our middle school assistant principals, also is retiring. That's on the addendum. And for anyone who's worked with Pete, you know, if you pass by his office at lunchtime, he's typically got students in there who, for one reason or another, don't want to eat in the cafeteria. So he's got a little coffee clutch of kids who he hangs out with, and he's just a spirit of positivity and expertise and a great part of the fabric of Chatham Middle School. So we wish him well as Diane Schulman over at Lafayette.
Good for them. Always envious of the retirements. You'd solve the teacher shortage if you just refused to accept these retirements.
Before you vote, I just need to note that on A11, Julie Green's end date of service is February 10th, not January 27th. And I'm glad you all rely on me very much, but I do have to comment that there are 24 personnel items on the original agenda, not 23, and the addendum is 25, 6, and 7.
Okay. 25, 26, 27. Yep. Okay. Just keeping you honest, Peter. Thank you. Any other questions on any personnel items? Nope. Very good. Peter, would you mind?
Sure. Agenda items A1 to 24 and addendums 25, 6, and 7, and a correction to A11. Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Yes.
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Mr. Smith, Finance and Facilities?
Yeah, I'd like to move agenda items B1 to B11 on the main agenda to a vote.
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? I don't know, Matt always had a lot more donations.
I was just thinking, there's no donations on this one.
I just looked too.
Not even the box tops, nothing.
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 I got to get Bank of America's grant submitted. So if anybody works for Bank of America or Morgan Stanley, they offer volunteer grants. I think Morgan offers up to $2,000. So if you volunteer for an organization in schools, they will actually give money back to the school. So if you happen to work for, if you can check for your volunteer grants and you can give money to whether it's the scouting organization, your church, your schools, any organization at all. Okay, great. So no questions. Peter?
Sure. Agenda items B1 through B11. Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro.
Yes.
Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Dr. Zhang.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Agenda items pass 8-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Ross, for curriculum.
Sure, I'd like to move agenda items C1 to C6.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Dr. LaSousa, or Dr. Donahue, probably more appropriately, is item number 4, the testing, are those just hours or half days? Like, it's just a 2-hour delayed opening, and that impacts which grades?
For the GEPA, it's 11th grade.
Oh, just 11th?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the NJSLA, as you know, is grades 3 to 8, and then our 9th graders take ELA, and then they also have to take algebra and geometry.
Okay.
And science is grades 5, 8, I'm sorry,
No, it's okay.
5, 8, and 9, 11. I forget, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was really just trying to illustrate how much time we're losing in this testing.
Yes.
It's an incredible amount of time.
The good news is this year is that it is in the month of May. If you remember back when Park first came into fashion,
Yeah.
we were testing the students in March,
Right.
which basically precluded them from having instruction for an entire trimester. So May is inconvenient, but it is optimal in terms of where we are, at least in the academic year.
Okay. I just, the standardized testings that change every 2 years are of no value. You don't even get enough of a benchmark to use one year over year because they change year over year. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for either Susan or anybody else? Nope. Excellent, thank you, Peter.
Agenda items C1 through C6. Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes,
Agenda items pass 8-0.
excellent. Mr. Ryan, anything for policy?
Nothing for policy.
Just curious, I don't know where we're at with the rewrite from the New Jersey School Boards Association, but I was wondering if they could start giving Mr. Ryan and his committee, if they don't have hundreds of them done, if they can give them one section with the mapping, so that they can at least do some quality assurance that the mapping is good, or no, you're missing a percentage. Is there any way to get something from them so that Mr. Ryan and his team can start looking it over?
I can ask. I just exchanged emails with them last week, and they were working on that very part of the
Right,
project.
but instead of waiting for 100% of it, can we get, one chunk of it so that at least we can do some quality assurance on, we don't even know what mapping we're receiving, but
Yep.
I think that's going to be the most critical part.
Mhm.
Did they map it correctly? Did they delete what we did want to jettison, and did they add in what was relevant? Did they take away stuff that we added specifically that is just germane to our district that we want to keep, but yet they cut out? Even if they can just give us the facilities, or just pick one topic, it's irrelevant which one, whichever one they have complete, and then Mr. Ryan and his folks can at least look at the mapping portion of it. It's silly to wait for 100% of it when we can tell them, no, you missed the boat, on this one, and go back and do the mapping differently. Okay, great. Yeah, if you could ask and just let Mr. Ryan know, and then he'll let us know in due course. Any board business? Mike, that was the only calendar update, correct, was the delayed openings for the testing? Okay. And will that calendar be posted after the meeting?
Because we've had to modify so many calendars with so many dates of testing, we haven't been changing the district calendar. We've been leaving it as is and letting the schools then communicate the specific days of delayed openings.
Okay.
So that people don't get confused.
Okay, I just want to give them enough notice. I know it's not until May on delayed openings.
No, one's in March.
Oh, one's in March?
Right, is
Oh,
it-
yeah, March
there is
13th, 14th,
March.
15th. Okay, as long as they give parents adequate notice of the delayed openings, because sometimes they can use that other time if they're, an orthodontist appointment or, whatever. Okay, fantastic. No additional board business?
I just want to say that I attended the middle school play this weekend, and I know a couple other board members went at different times, and it was amazing just to see just how many kids participated and were involved, from the set design to just the kids. The stage, the way they were moving the stuff on and off and was seamless, and the actors and actresses themselves did a phenomenal job, and it was really, really great to see. And I've only been in that new auditorium myself probably 3 times now, and it's spectacular. It's beautiful. People really should go see it. It was just a great show. And then yesterday I had the opportunity to go to the Catwalk Design Challenge at Chatham High School. And I love my textiles and design programs, so it was amazing to see what these contestants were able to design given $80, and it's like making something from nothing. And it was fantastic. And what I love about that, it's all grades, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and the support that they give each other. And so that was another amazing thing that I did this weekend to showcase the talent of our students.
That's great, thank you. I saw the play on Saturday. It was fantastic. The kids were great.
Yeah,
And
it was just.
when they say all-school production, there had to be 80 kids involved, either behind the scenes, in the seats, ushering, on stage. On stage, there had to be 40, no joke, at least 40 students on stage, and they were running through the audience. It was great. It was really,
awesome.
the play was Newsies, so it's a musical, and it's very, very active. And it's interesting that between 6th grade and 8th grade, that, you know, the disparity in sizes, it's really, when you see them all on the stage, you know, one kid's filling out his W-2 and the other kid looks like he's just, you know, from kindergarten, but.
But they were all smiling.
It is amazing, though, how many kids are on stage, and they're just having such a great time. I often like to go the last night because they're all, you know, happy and they're all going to their cast party, and it's just a great, theater's just a great opportunity for kids to really express themselves. Any other questions? No? Excellent. Okay, perfect. So we have our second opportunity for public commentary. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself at the mic. No? Go ahead, Stuart. You're it.
Stuart Carr, 3 Crestwood Drive, Chatham Township, once again. Again, just wanted to clarify a little bit more on this pilot issue. If you had the same transaction on a market rate deal instead of a pilot issue, that money would not be available for the Chatham Borough Council or the municipality to give to the Board of Education. All right? Money is fungible. And my only concern is procedural, not substantive. I've got no concern, again, with uses of funds. All I'm saying is simply the people that Ms. Weber said, President Weber indicated that she's spoken with or seen in all these different places, say that the school needs the money. That's fine. But procedurally, the money that's from a municipal project should go into the municipal taxpayers' pockets. And then just as you've said for the last 15 meetings or whatever, have a second question or multiple questions to ask the taxpayers for that money. Make the case directly to the taxpayers. That's the way procedurally it should work. It should not be a backdoor deal between the municipality and the school board. That cuts out the taxpayers. Municipality has their own issues. They could fight it out themselves. But I think, again, it is a direct ask to the taxpayers. That's, I think, the best way that the board should handle it, and hopefully the municipality will also do the same thing, again, whether it's Chatham Borough or Chatham Township or wherever. It's purely procedural. Again, money is fungible. If there's any extra money, it goes to the taxpayer pocket. If it's municipal requirements, whether it's fire trucks or XYZ, whatever it happens to be, it stays in the municipal coffers. It should not go from the muni directly to the Board of Education. It goes from the muni to the taxpayers. Then the taxpayers decide via referendum if they want to part with their money per the argument that you folks make. Again, that's procedurally the way it should happen, and I would hope that you guys would at least consider that. Thank you again.
Thanks, Stuart. Any other comments?
I'm sorry, one more thing. Dr. Sousa, sorry. Dr. Sousa, did you have any comments on that parochial, private, charter type thing, any kind of data, any kind of information, anecdotal or otherwise, on the teacher shortage dimension? Thank you.
Now we're closing it. You're done. Thanks, Stuart.
I do not know anything about
I
the
have no idea.
comps with charter schools or with private schools.
Okay, thank you. We do have an executive session. My only comment to Stuart, and he and I have a love-hate thing going here, that's your interpretation of the procedures. I believe this is procedural. The borough resident, the borough representatives on the council or on the board will meet with the borough council, and the residents did speak. They spoke at every single one of the town halls that the borough graciously held for many years on many occasions. So the procedure is, it's not a backdoor. It's a little insulting because we've been talking about this. Don't get up, Mr. Carr. We've been talking about this for years. We've been talking about this for absolutely years. So it's not backdoor. We've been talking about it. We've been working with the council. And if you want to help as a township resident, maybe you can drum up some township budget to help offset. So it's your interpretation. I think this is the procedure. This is the procedure we're going to follow, and we'll see how it goes. Again, you can't stand up at town hall meetings and say, you know, we're going to make sure that the school district is whole. Whatever that means. We have no idea what that looks like yet. However, you can't get up and say, we're going to take care of it. And residents spoke at every single meeting saying, hey, how's that going to impact the school? Don't worry. We're going to work with the school and ensure there's no negative impact. That's where we're at. That's been the procedure. That's what we're going to continue to do. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't know, Mr. Smith, if you want to weigh in on any of that, or as the master of coin?
No, I think we've been very clear that we've got a certain amount of students coming into the district as a result of a project that was approved with the pretense that we would be made whole on that increase in population of the school.
Okay, I think, will action be taken? Okay, so no action will be taken. We have an executive session. If folks want to grab a drink, it might be a little bit lengthy. If you need to get a glass of water or something, we'll meet in the band room. Drive safely. Thank you very much all for coming out. I appreciate it. So if we could just maybe quickly as we can, we'll meet in the band room just because it's going to be a bit of a lengthy session. So thank you.